I've also had people come to me and say, just do what you did with Whole Truth. And I'm like, I can't plagiarize my own work.
Right now you're thinking the whole truth. Then you have to think Hoko. Okay, this is food. Then you have to think Faye Beauty. And then you have to think another apparel brand. Like, how do you context switch?
Brand is something that you invest in and then you keep going back to it because it has to remain consistent.
This entire conversation of the why.
Yeah.
Tata Namak is a massive brand. Maruti is a massive brand.
Yeah.
No why. Is it necessary for a brand to have a why? You and other creative directors, entrepreneurs get drunk. What do you guys bitch about? That you're like, इससे गधा आदमी नहीं देखा मैंने.
I've had founders lie. For us, I think our secret sauce in a project is when we understand.
Welcome to another episode of The Whole Truth of Marketing. Today I have with me a very, very dear friend, Anushka Sani, who no one calls Anushka Sani, we call her Nush. Nush is the founder and creative director at Thought Over Design, the brand design agency which is behind the brand The Whole Truth. Everything you see on the packaging, everything that you see on the brand design, it's been done by Thought Over Design. We've been very, very, very fortunate. I have been very fortunate to have met Nush before I started the brand, and Thought Over Design has built this brand alongside me and us since day -1, and as I said, super thankful for having found a true partner who's helped me create the brand, and also, you know, given me language for what role does design and great design thinking play in creating hopefully a brand that lasts more than a generation. Thank you so much, Nush, for taking the time and doing this. I know you're not very comfortable doing podcasts.
Because I'm not a podcast bro.
You're not a bro, yes, which is, I must say, a very, very pleasing change for the interviewer also. But Nush, why don't you tell people how we started and how this relationship started?
Yeah, I think I remember our first meeting when you'd come into the studio where we were in Mahalakshmi at the time. And, you know, I'd set everything up and we were like trying to connect the HDMI wire into the TV and stuff, very low tech at the time. And you just kind of said, hey, you know, can you shut your laptop? Because I don't want this agency spiel. Just tell me a little bit about yourself and tell me what you're excited about. And that's how the conversation started. And I remember Karan from Harkat was in that meeting and I thought he was your co-founder at the time. But it was a really like memorable one for me because, you know, I got to try the product as well in that same meeting, which doesn't always happen. And it was a conversation between two people, you know. So I think I'm always more comfortable in that kind of a setting. I'm not very good with pitching, selling, any of those things. I don't think that's my comfort area. So it was a great conversation, and I think that's what makes great relationships. So
amazing. And for everyone's knowledge, Nush doesn't have to pitch or sell. Your problem is 100 people want to work with you and you choose maybe you. How do you choose who to work with?
So I started also my journey as an independent creative person because I just wanted that freedom of choice to pick what we can do. And so the first thing I kind of look at is just a gut feel between the product, the category, and, you know, where we are. If it's something exciting, if it's something that sounds interesting, then it automatically piques my interest. The second thing is definitely like who's involved in the project. And I think we have over the years found a sweet spot of working with people who are very heavily invested in building something. So typically, you know, senior leadership that has skin in the game, or founders who've kind of like, you know, really sort of left something really lucrative to then start something. So they really are putting a lot behind it, you know. So I think that passion is something that I look for. And then automatically you know that, okay, if you're going to put in a level of energy into something, you're going to be met with the same level of energy and passion.
Yeah.
And thirdly, I think, you know, it's just value for creativity and design. And I find that one is a little hard to assess as well, because superficially everyone wants good design and everyone wants, to say that they've invested in it.
Yeah.
But do people really spend that time and effort also, getting into that process?
And money.
Yes, absolutely. So I think initially when I started my career, it was different because I would pick up projects, not even based on budget or anything like that. It was mostly based on, interest, comfort with the person who's reaching out, ability to do something new.
Yeah.
And now, of course, that it's a studio that has, overheads, people, etc. Definitely budget, because I also think it's a value-based service,
Yeah.
and therefore it's also very subjective to kind of assign a value to it. But yeah, I think one of the first things we look at now is, do people have the budget to invest with
Yeah.
us as well?
Yeah. And like I really think that is actually what brings both the skin in the game, and as you said, everyone says they love design
Yeah.
until they have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Although I know that there is also a bit of a dichotomy there, because you like to work with brands in their formative years, like
Yes.
before they've,
Yes.
you want to shape the narrative.
Correct.
Which usually means the company's very early stage, which usually means they don't have too much money in the bank usually.
Yeah.
They don't have much sales, they don't have much. So at that time, committing money upfront
Yeah.
and it's a leap of faith, right? Like you don't know how good or how awesome this thing will become.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it. It is not easy for founders to commit that upfront. And what helps, or what would help, I hope that a lot of young founders watch this. What would help them is, first of all, understanding what does a brand design agency do, right?
Yeah.
Because this word agency means so many things in the creative ecosystem. It could be an ad agency, a social
Yeah.
media agency, a video only agency, a meme agency,
Yeah.
and within that there's this brand design agency. So educate us, like what
Yeah.
does a brand design agency like Thought Over Design do?
Yeah. People need to understand that when you come to a branding agency specifically, it's not only about visual design.
Yeah.
Yeah. We, at least at Thought Over Design, and a lot of good studios will do this, we like to get into the context of the brand. And that may mean looking at, the category and what exists currently. It would also mean understanding the consumer a little bit better, either through the brand and what they've learned, or the business and what they're kind of doing research on, as well as consumer and where the consumer is at. So these are all things that feed into what will enable good design.
Yeah.
Right? So without spending time on understanding that context, I think design would kind of be a bit handicapped in
Yeah.
a sense. So a good branding agency will kind of do both things. They would help you sort of figure out, the purpose of the brand, the intention, the positioning, who are we speaking to, and then be able to define, things like, how do we name this? How do we go about designing it? What do different assets look like? What does the brand system look like? How does someone know this is truly from this particular brand or business? And you're right, there are so many agencies, and I think it is confusing even for me. And rightfully so, because I think everyone defines their creative practice in their own way.
Yeah.
Because some people are very comfortable oscillating between, brand strategy, brand design, maybe some social media marketing, and especially in India, I think a lot of agencies are built to scale up.
And like all in one, like
Yes,
we'll give
yes,
you everything.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
like, a 360-degree
Yeah.
agency, etc. And that's kind of also where the complication kind of happens, and it's no one's fault that people don't understand it,
Yeah.
because it is ambiguous on both ends, both
Yeah.
on our end as service providers and for brand custodians and founders. So the way to look at it is, firstly, you need like a creative arsenal when you're setting up a business, and you need different kinds of creative partners,
Yeah.
or your own in-house creative team as well, to kind of make this happen overall.
I'll tell you my mental model, and from that, one or two questions that I want to throw some light on. So
Yeah.
first of all, see, when one starts, chances are you will not have any money to spend on marketing. You will open up some Instagram page and post there once a week types, and most of that will also not be very, produced or curated.
Yeah.
So actually the only marketing real estate that you have is your pack. At the start, that's the only real estate that you have, and hence whatever voice, visual language, tone, world, characters you create at the beginning, that, as you said, becomes the creative arsenal, which can then go to war, right? Like which can then take up many forms and shapes. So, to your point, we invested early on because we met great people, and it was like whatever it takes to work with them. But also because there's this saying that if I had 100 hours to cut a tree, I would spend 99 sharpening the axe. And this is sharpening the axe because this is the arsenal that you take to war. So if you're running short on arrows, then how will you kill, right? So that's how I would think about investing. But, and this is a common confusion also, that is it that you need a brand design agency only at the start, right? And the fact is we work much more today in terms of number of hours that you spend on the brand than we did early on, right? Because whatever the brand says after the day it's born should ideally sync and be coherent with what it had said on its pack on the day that it was born, or on its socials the day that it was born, right? Like, and you and I have had so many conversations where you send me texts saying that this thing that we put out, I don't think the design is in sync, or the tone is in sync, or what we should have done it this way. So I also wanted to shed light on what's the job of a brand design agency in continuum, not just at the start.
So firstly, like, I think what you said is very relevant for FMCG brands, where a pack is literally a very big part of your messaging. It's not always true for brands where, the pack is not that important.
For sure.
Right?
So, I'm speaking CPG. That's true,
exactly. So in consumer packaged goods, the pack, and I think now more so than ever, people are very invested in looking at the pack and stuff like that. So in our case, we work with a lot of brands where we kind of help them set that up, right? And if they're not growing in the same manner as you guys are, introducing new categories, evolving categories time and time again, they may not need to continue that engagement, They may come back to us for particular photo shoots, maybe a website, all of those things. But it's not necessary that they need to continue that engagement. A lot of our work is, maybe a 6 to 8 month engagement with someone, and then, the project is kind of completed and they go on to maybe a digital marketing agency, etc., so on and so forth. But we enable them with a toolkit that they would take to these different people so that they're in sync with what the initial brand vision was. Some of this continuous work happens with brands that are constantly growing, and I think that's why this work has deepened over time, because while you guys started with the one protein bar and the 4 or 5 flavors, now we have like an insane portfolio of products across categories, So I think with every category that we've done together, and I think for me, dark chocolates was a personal favorite. The protein packs, the protein powder packs were a personal favorite. What we're working on now is also something that's had a journey. So those are very pivotal moments in the brand's journey as well.
Also, I want to double click on, you said that we like to get involved in the narrative, in the story, in the context. Tell me, there must be a spectrum of clarity with which founders come to you when they come to you for brand design. There could be one end which is, I broadly know that I'm going to make a brand in the Korean noodle space or this space, but I want to work with you to now figure it out ki kya hoga brand. I don't have any, and usually I find that these would be founders who are, supply chain, finance, sales, that sort of background, that they're like, I know the ops of the business very well. I know I want to do a X category business, but I don't have any specific,
Correct.
thought on brand. Let's go create. Two, folks who come from a brand background or have a very clear purpose, mission. I'm very clear this is what I want. Where in the spectrum does your perfect fit lie?
Yeah.
And I have a follow-up question also, that for folks who come with clarity that this is what I want, do you feel less involved? Like, do you feel that, oh, like this is not as much mine as this one is?
Yeah. So, you're right, both exist. For me, it's really not even about the context, actually. I think it's more about the approach that people come with. Because at either end of the spectrum, you need to be open to a creative point of view. And if we're not able to bring a creative point of view to the table, if things are so set in stone, then it's actually not that much fun for us. But I think the creative point of view can happen in both situations. And what ends up happening with the very open-ended brief, it gives us a green field, and it's really, really fun, because then we're able to sort of look at consumer, culture, category, and really kind of find a sweet spot that we would want to land the brand. And as long as the client is really receptive to, the ideas, I think it kind of lands really well. What ends up happening with people who are very clear and come with the clarity, like a lot of brands will come to us, and I think clean label has become a very big thing. I think ever since, the Whole Truth has also started, it's become such a big thing, it's become a category of its own. People will come and say, okay, we want to do a clean label brand, but every clean label brand can't be the same. You have to find an angle of differentiation. And I've also had people come to me and say, just do what you did with Whole Truth. And I'm like, can't plagiarize my own work. It's really funny. But in those cases, it's about finding an angle that becomes interesting. And as long as there's room to do that, there's something for us to do. If it's a very clear brief that I want you to do this, it needs to look like this, and then it comes from a place of I will tell you what to do, then I don't see why we need to be in the mix.
But in the first one, tell me, I'm curious that yes, if the person is receptive, you get an open playing field, you pitch a lot of stuff, then something gets done. But receptiveness doesn't guarantee decisiveness, right? And if someone has come in with no clue of kya karna hai, so it can A, lead to a lot of indecision, and B, even if someone, piggybacks on your conviction that this is the thing to do you find that those brands don't remain consistent over time because it was never the founder's conviction, it was borrowed conviction?
I'll respond to the first one, which is basically in cases where, people are just receptive, it would also kind of mean that they sometimes are not sure of anything only. That happens a lot. And I face this because I've been doing this 15 years now. So it can also get very complicated, because then it's about, what if we're this also? What if we're this also? And it becomes a bit of a referencing game. Okay, and this I absolutely dislike, because every week you will get a new image reference, you will get a new website reference, you will get a new, article in like your story.
Flavor of the day problem, right?
Like and you honestly can't figure this out early on. You only know once you get into the mix with people, and that is definitely a problem. And we've had to step away from projects sometimes because you can't keep being in this, let's see where this goes kind of situation. So at some point there needs to be some conviction. So I think some of the tools we use help us. So when we do our culture research, when we do our consumer research, we try to get a sense from founders as well, what are they feeling more comfortable about building? Because I always say this, that for us, I think our secret sauce in a project is when we understand the founder. Okay, and if we understand the founder really well, we're able to translate their personality, so to speak, into a brand as well. Now, obviously, this may not have been possible with like, legacy brands that are built based on no person behind it. But I think in today's day, people are also buying into the person behind the brand and the conviction that the brand has over and above just a tagline.
Yeah.
So it's becoming a gray area as to what is the brand and who is the team behind it. And I find it's a little bit of a, I don't know, maybe it's just a loose analysis, but I find that today people also want the brand to be aligned with the people behind the brand.
Behind it, yeah.
Because you can see through it.
Yeah.
So I found that's a sweet spot, that if we also, let's say we meet someone and we're presenting ideas that seem like a good market fit, okay, like it's a great white space or a market fit, but that founder does not seem like someone that would
pull this
be
off
in sync with that.
Yeah.
The conversation we have internally is, should we even present this? Like, does it even make sense?
So funnily, in this brand design chat, now you've said, cultural context 2-3 times. You're also talking about that actually the right brand can only be found by understanding the founder. So there seems to be a lot of, everything from psychology to anthropology built into this, that you have to understand cultural zeitgeist, you have to understand human evolution, you have to understand people specifically. How do you have this capability in the team? Like, what is the...
Yeah. So, we don't only look at design as a superficial outcome, right? So you're right, all of these things come into play. And very early on, we as a team invested in the right kind of people, to kind of look at research and culture and consumer. So I have a really, really awesome strategy director. Her name is Rohini. And we've had multiple people in the past that have also been part of the team, Disha, Divya, different people, different points in time. Disha had worked on The Whole Truth. And we are not looking at this context from a design lens when we first interact with it. We are looking at it to understand it, And to do that, you need to be able to absorb all of this information, okay, through different kinds of research. So whether it's primary research of speaking to consumer, whether it's secondary research and looking at like packs and like mission statements and like all of these things from different brands that exist, and whether it's just having very heart-to-heart conversations with even the brand owners and understanding, okay, why did you see that this product is something that's a gap in the market, or why are you getting into this right now? And I don't think there's a formula. Like, some people will ask us like, okay, what is the framework you use and what is the formula for things? And I don't think there's a formula to it. I think something ends up sticking and you find insights along the way.
But you do have a process. Like, we've been through that process 2-3 times on different projects, and like every time I can tell you, it feels like, अरे हम इतना ज़्यादा क्यों कर रहे हैं, let's get into it and let's get to the execution phase of it. But every time, it informs the execution and the output is better. You want to talk a bit about the process?
Yeah. So we call this basically like an immersion and strategy process. And what we first do is we sit with the team that's building the business or has already built the business, depending on what time they've come to us, and really understand, what are you building? What is the product? Who is it for? If it's been a business that's been around, what are the products that are doing well? We've worked with brands that have also gotten a lot of love towards the product and stuff, and then they want to kind of get into a branding process. So we try to understand context first without getting into any of the other stuff. So this also means we have to have very heart-to-heart conversations with people. We have to have conversations not just with the founder. We like to speak to different people on the team if the team is, multifaceted, etc. by that time. So sometimes we would speak to an investor. Sometimes we would speak to, if they have like a CMO, we would speak to them. Sometimes we'll speak to someone who's, heading the website and they're looking at D2C, stats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we like talking to people from the team to get the context, right? And if there's an actual product, we want to try it. We want to, we want to like get into it a little bit, like if it's makeup or skincare.
Is it important for you and your team to fall in love with the product?
I think it's important to fall in love with the context and be invested in the product coming together. So like we've worked with brands where on day one they make us try a version of the product and it's not there yet. But they're also looking for feedback. They're in the R&D process, and a lot of times I prefer when clients come to us at that stage because branding also takes time.
Yeah.
So if you come to us at a time when your product is 100% ready and now you want to go to market tomorrow, I don't have time to do what I need to do. So it's a good parallel track to have, and it's great to work with brands that they have an intention to get the product right. So
why I asked is I'm just trying to figure out, see, clearly design is you get emotionally invested in what you're doing, you get immersed in that context, you put a part of you in it, right? Is it easier / better done when you inherently become a user of that product because that's like you fall in love with it, it's something that you always wanted, like do those projects come out better than the others?
I think that's where the selection process comes into play, right? Because if inherently there's an interest in the product or category, and we do that at that, like when I mentioned to you about kind of selecting it based on these different facets, it comes into play at that time. So then if you don't resonate with what's happening, it's not that exciting. And I think in general, and this is a me problem, I find that it's really difficult to brand something or, market something if you have nothing to do with it. Because then maybe it's more science.
Yeah.
But here there's a lot of like you said, feeling. And I'm also someone who's very emotional.
Yeah.
So I need to
be
like
emotionally
it.
invested. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
totally
need to like it and I want to like it, and then I also feel proud to be associated with it. So
which is the reason why this doesn't scale, and it shouldn't scale, right? Like this, because I think this is where, how do you make a big agency? How do you become a 100 people agency?
I don't know.
This is the answer that you'll have to take away. You're basically putting a filter.
Yeah.
That if I can't get emotionally invested in this, either because I love the team or because I love the product or because I love the the mission, even if it's not the right mission for me personally, I don't need it, but I think the world needs it. If none of these things are true, you're actually putting a filter and saying that I don't think I want to do this work. Because I want to be proud of my work, and that never happens when I'm not emotionally invested. So वो तो scale नहीं करता है, and maybe not everything should scale. Like it's a good thing.
I have this conversation with people, and a lot of agencies have an approach where they do projects that they want to showcase.
Yeah.
And then they do projects that
that pay the bills.
That pay the bills. And the showcase is always like 10 or 15% of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I find that it would be very hard for me to build a business like that, because that means I've involved myself in 75 or 80% of things that I don't even want to show to the world that I've been associated with this. And it's not just about how it looks on the portfolio in terms of like, visual, but about being associated with a certain business or a person. And I think like from very early on, and what a lot of people have pointed out to me is that, you have a VC-like approach. And I'm like, I don't even know what this means. Now I understand. And now I use it. I'm like, we approach things like VCs approach things.
You do 100 founders come a calling, and then you pick one of them like I will work with you. That's
it's not like that also, But it's just so important to me that, like I said in the beginning, if I'm spending my time and energy on something, wouldn't I want to be also energized by it? Wouldn't I want to also be proud to be associated with it and just be part of that journey, So, and like you said, it could be different things. That's why I said with product, yes and no, because it might be a work in progress.
Yeah, but if you
know?
can't find one good reason to be emotionally invested, but tell me
Exactly.
the projects in which you do get emotionally invested and then you pour heart and soul into it, and then
Yeah.
it takes 8-10 months and then you make it and then you give the baby over that it's now yours, go and
Yeah.
bring it up into the world.
Yeah.
A, is it hard? And B, in places unlike ours where you're not continuously involved,
Yeah.
does it hurt to see them screw it up?
I think I have like multiple answers here. It's not hard because actually it's really nice to do projects, wrap it up really nicely, hand it over to people who are going to take care of it and take it into the world, because that's also the job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is very project basis in that sense. And I think it's really nice because it kind of gives me a perspective into a whole new industry for a short while. And then sometimes I'm tapped out. I'm like, I don't want to do this category for a bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't even get into it for a little while. And I'm like, we'll take a break now from this because it's like I've poured my energy into it, you know? So that's actually really nice.
Nice.
On the flip side, yes, in some cases when you've poured your heart and soul into it and you give it to a team and then they don't execute it as well in terms of like, maybe they've briefed a third agency and they've not fully understood the intent behind it, or they've created some assets that don't work. It does hurt because then it kind of feels like, man, there's no way for me to tell the person looking at this brand who doesn't know the difference between TOD did this versus XYZ did this. It's all like one experience.
Yeah.
So it definitely hurts, and I think it's a pain point for a lot of designers and creative people.
Yeah.
But I think it's part of the process, and it's actually a nice part of the process when you can just kind of hand it over and be like, okay, this is done. I can move on to the next thing. And sometimes what happens is those same people come back to you with another project a while later, and then you get to kind of pick up from where you left off with that. So that's also really nice.
We talk about this, especially now that we're scaling, we talk about this internally a lot, that at the start, before you put something out, your entire focus is actually on beauty, on making something beautiful. But the minute it starts and real world pressures, business, plus 20 different cooks, right? Like you might make the most beautiful pack, but if my supply chain is not sorted, it'll have dirt on it when it gets to the store. There is now a media, advertising agency which has interpreted the brand in a certain way as doing something. There's a social media. So there are many cooks and there are many things to do, and there are business and real world pressures, and basically entropy starts going up. A lot of variables start entering, and you're no longer just thinking beauty. And hence one of the sad realizations is that beauty is always maximum at the start and it is destined to go down. You can only slow the rate of going down, but it seems like it is destined to go down. Ray of hope is few, large brands like a Starbucks or an Apple who've actually been able to take it up as they grew. So it's not as if it can't be done, but like the more we try and study these guys कि इन्होंने क्या किया था to get it done, you realize that it actually requires disproportionate time, money, resource, thought, intent, investment, because every other force is actually going to pull beauty down. It's no longer that as important as it was at the start. And I've always, because like it's almost like at the start there's mother, father who like the founder and the brand design agency who birthed it. But then one parent is told that you now let it be. The other guy, will get a nanny, will get a preschool, will get everything and then bring it up. It must be tough to watch it from a distance.
It is, but you kind of learn to let it go sometimes as well. And I just want to add over here that in terms of like, since the podcast is also for founders that are creating new businesses, I think everyone needs to have someone who becomes the custodian. And you think that, okay, this brand design agency is going to come on board and do this and then it's kind of done. But that's not the case. You need to have someone who's going to kind of take that forward, who understands the context of it. And therefore, like, I find that is a big that's a big challenge because they feel like maybe this person is not that important or whatever in their own team.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to have that custodian within the team as well that looks at these things.
And the problem there is, there are only two ways that there'll be a custodian. One is that someone in the founding team
Yeah.
has that bent of mind, has that inclination, has that
Yeah.
background, so they are naturally inclined to keep looking at it. Or there is hard business logic to it that you will allocate resource and say, let's get a
Yeah.
chief creative officer or
Yeah.
someone who's supposed to do that, right? Like these are the only two ways it happens.
Correct.
So the first one is happenstance, right? Like
Yeah.
not necessary that your founding team
Yeah.
or founder will have that bent. And it's so hard to quantify beauty. It's so hard to say what part of your sales or gross
Yeah.
margin is happening because your pack made someone smile or your what you wrote
Yeah.
warmed someone's heart. That's why they picked it up. Like it's so difficult, or the fact that it's all coherent. So actually the first time they saw it, they didn't pick it. The second time they saw it, they didn't pick it. The third time they saw it, they're like, shit, this is so coherent
Yeah.
that the story is building up and up and up, and now I'm convinced I'm going to take it. इसको quantify नहीं कर सकते ना. It's very, so it has to be faith led.
Yeah.
And hence actually even the second one comes back to someone's conviction
Yeah.
that because it costs real money, and you will never be able to say इससे क्या return
Yeah.
आया, right?
I think that's where some of the, you need to borrow conviction based on others that have done it before
Yeah.
and benchmarks that have been set.
Yeah.
Because the thing with branding is what it does that's different from what you do on an ongoing basis is it creates that differentiation and distinctiveness
Yeah.
at the start.
Yeah.
And then you use other tools of marketing, etc., to kind of get the word out
Yeah.
about it. So I find, and actually you're right, a lot of people also ask us, like, how do we measure, the ROI on
Yeah.
this, etc. And I've never really had an answer. I
There
don't
is
know
none.
whether there is an answer. But the only thing I say is, hey, look at our portfolio, look at the kind of brands we've worked with, and maybe you can take a look at how that has performed.
Yeah.
Because that's the only real metric that I can think of, and those are all real world examples.
No, there is none, and which is like, I actually like that in a way because this ensures that not everyone can do it, because
Yeah.
it will only happen if you have that faith, and not everyone because faith requires belief requires
Yeah.
some mental model, some life experience that leads you there. It's not a financial statement anyone can read and say the right thing to do is buy this raw material. That's easy. Like this leap of faith that I will invest 40, 50, 60 lakhs in
Yeah.
designing my brand, and then I'll have someone as a custodian and spend more money and do all of that, comes from faith, because you'll never be able to, or creating a media lab and saying that we'll do content, etc. And hence not everyone will do it, which is great. Like it's a good thing to be able to differentiate on.
I think little bit of different opinion on this. I agree you need to have some faith, but if you truly understand like design, and you of all people I know are like obsessed with Steve Jobs as well and Apple, but like that is the whole point of design.
Yes.
Like when you can't tell,
That-
okay,
Yeah.
when it is invisibly built in, even if it's beautiful, that's kind of what makes it work.
Yeah.
And I find that one of the things that people need to just invest in a little bit before maybe saying, okay, I'll take a leap of faith and do this, is to learn a little bit just about a few benchmarks and case studies on how design can actually be a big differentiator.
Yeah.
So it's not so much of like a vague, like, abstraction, you know what I mean? Because it is process oriented, and it can actually really help, differentiate your brand. And now more than ever, I feel like there are just so many new businesses opening in every single category.
Yeah.
And sometimes product also is not that different from one another with some of these businesses, you know.
Yeah.
So then design becomes a differentiator
Yeah.
at a product level, at a brand level, at an experience level.
No, I didn't mean faith in a, you know, blind faith or
Yeah.
a faith comes from belief.
Yeah.
Belief comes from having spent time thinking about this thing.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, it's so obvious that human beings, we love to think that we are logical, but we are actually far more emotional. We take a lot more
Yeah.
decisions on emotion. It's not a bad thing. Emotions are great. They are like the, you know, the accumulation of lakhs of years of human evolution are coded in our emotions. So exactly that once you study an Apple and you study a Starbucks and you study, you know, a Dropbox and an Airbnb, and you realize that shit, like, there clearly something irrational is happening here.
Yeah.
And you can't explain it by the chairs and the tables individually, but you can only explain it by how the whole looks and feels, that you get the faith that, you know, this leap is worth making. But we've now spent so much time discussing branding and design and good design being a differentiator for a good brand. Let me start the podcast and ask you, what is a brand?
So, a brand is what you spend time sort of deliberating on, and it's kind of like your North Star. Okay, it is the why of the business. It is what the brand or business stands for. It is your belief, and then there are some, you know, manifestations of it that people start recognizing. It could be, you know, a brand logo, it could be colors, it could be a tone of voice, it could be a brand system. And there's so many different manifestations today as well. But that North Star and the why and what it stands for is really the starting point. And this plays a huge role in marketing, because when you know what that is and you have a clear, distinct way in which you look and speak and present yourself, it informs the kind of marketing activities you would do, the kind of briefs you would create for, you know, content, ads, performance, all of those things as well. So they are very interrelated, actually. But brand is something that you invest in, and then you kind of, you keep going back to it as well, because it has to remain consistent, versus marketing, which can kind of draw from that North Star, but change over time as well, as long as that thread remains the same.
Very interesting. So, two questions here. One is, you talk of, you know, brand almost as this well or pool that you keep going back to dip into and then figure out, you know, let's pull out another bucket of what would an ad of this brand look like. Let's pull out another bucket of what would, you know, a point of sale asset on this might look like. Kind of like it, when you were speaking, it took me to, you know, my friends in the movie industry tell me that actually we write the backstory of every character that you never see. You only see the character, but we know everything about this character. इसका ये कहाँ पैदा हुआ था, इसका कब breakup हुआ, इसकी, you know, which you'll never see on the screen. So, and they're like, whenever we are thinking of how will this character behave in this situation, we actually go back to the backstory and figure it out. So, is that a good analogy, that the brand is actually, it starts with the backstory, and if it's in this zone, not exactly, then to I have an even bigger doubt that, you know, this thing of when people come to you without knowing the why, it's like a nice business opportunity. I think no one is doing cat food. I want to do cat food. Then how do you get them sold onto the why? Because if they are not sold onto it, they are not going to keep going back to this well and pulling out from it.
Yeah, I think you are not selling anyone the why.
Yeah.
Okay, you are actually co-creating it with them. If there's no co-creation process, there's no point, because then this person, like you said, will buy into it, and then what context do they have of
Yeah.
having agreed on this? So the process of figuring out the why is something that we do together with people. And this is also where it comes from the fact that you can't just present any why to anyone.
Anyone, yeah. You have to understand the person.
You have to
and-
understand the person, you have to understand the product. And yes, of course, you need to also understand whether consumers today and whether they, will resonate with that why, because at the end of the day, you want people to connect with it.
But I have another follow-up to this. This entire conversation of the why,
Yeah.
is that a very today answer? Because, Tata Namak is a massive brand, Maruti is
Yeah.
a massive brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
No why. Very distinct brands. You can see a Tata Namak packet from a distance and say it is Tata
Yeah.
Namak, visually very distinctive. So, is it necessary for a brand to have a why?
I think it is necessary when you are operating in a world where there's so much going on. It is necessary when you want to be somewhat of a challenger brand as well. It is not necessary if you just want to create a commodity. All right. So I think the point of figuring out that why and that positioning is to find a way to be distinct and also to resonate with people in a different way. And if a brand feels like they don't need to do that, and they may not need to do that,
Yeah.
then it's okay. It's totally fine. But I don't think brands that don't begin with that, I just don't see them having that same consumer connect. Okay, that brands that actually find a way to find that resonance, like I don't think that would happen.
I'm assuming the top 2-3 categories in which briefs and founders come to you are food, personal care, apparel.
Yeah.
These would be the bigger spaces.
Consumer brands mainly.
Yeah, within consumer brands.
Correct.
Like, do you find, would you change your definition of brand or tweak it between, say, a personal care and a food?
You have to approach it a bit differently, of course. It's not all the same.
Yeah.
But I think the search of that conviction and that why, there should be some deliberation on that regardless of the category. And even if it means you're launching a really fun makeup brand, for example, just have some angle with which you're going to do that.
Yeah.
Right? It could even be, a really fun name that kind of differentiates it a little bit, or in some way or form you've decided that you're going to be inspired by, I don't know, K-beauty products and stuff like that. But if it's not rooted in anything, then what is that North Star you'll go back to? And this is probably why me as a designer, I'm unable to always work with projects that are just only superficial design briefs.
Yeah.
And this might be a me thing.
Another thing I'm very curious about, you said you actually like going from project to project and one project gets over, but actually in a day, I'm assuming you're flitting 3 to 4 different brand hats because you're working on 6, 7, 10 projects at a time, and every day the team must be working on 3, 4 at least.
Yeah.
How do you context switch? Because unlike my context switching as a CEO, it's in the context of TWT, but it's functional context switching.
Yeah.
So it's finance, supply chain, marketing, sales.
Yes.
I think that's easier because it's not that I'm emotionally invested in some function, but you are emotionally invested in, right now you're thinking the whole truth.
Yeah.
Then you have to think Hoko.
Yeah.
And okay, this is food. Then you have to think Faye Beauty, and then you
Yeah.
have to think, another apparel brand. Like, how do you context switch?
It's become instant over time.
Nice.
And I think it becomes more complex when it's more than 4 or 5 in a day, and that happens sometimes. But up to that, once I've been able to build that context and understanding of that brand, it's not that difficult actually. What's more difficult for me is to switch these functional contexts that you're talking about within my business as well. So let's say I'm on a call with a new client, to switch from that to then an HR function, to switch from that to now giving feedback on a pack, and then to switch from that to speaking to some BMC guy that's come to the door. Like that for me is very challenging.
Good, na? Then we are both in the right jobs.
Yeah.
The actual context stitching of our jobs is more natural to us than the other.
In fact, I enjoy the context switching between
projects
because otherwise I would, I don't know, I feel like it's like, when you do like an HIIT workout, it's like different movements at different points in time. You're not just doing like 1 hour of cardio on the treadmill.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's really fun because then you kind of get to do different things, and some of them are harder, some of them are not that hard. On a different day, something else will be hard. So it's kind of like that.
But it speaks to the person that you are, right? It's not necessary that everyone loves HIIT. It's not necessary everyone loves. But it does for you. But I want to segue into what you said, that I don't just go from project to project. I have HR and finance and BMC people and office admin and why is this table broken and all of that to take care of. And I know from our conversations that continues to become a larger and larger part of the job, and no one, neither does anyone tell you this, nor does anyone talk about the fact that I don't think you knew that you were signing up to actually be spending 70% of your time being the business owner, and much lesser time on being the creative director. Tell me about that. Like, how does that make you feel? And is it a common problem? Is it something that other agency heads also you guys talk about?
I think the unique thing about my situation is that I feel like if I was only doing creative, that may also get boring for me. I like doing these other things also. But it is very draining, I have to be honest, because running a small studio, and ours is like 20, 25 people, which is actually considered mid-sized. And for a long time we were that 12 people sort of size. It gets a lot. So I can't deny the fact that sometimes it's very, like, it takes a lot from you, and then it takes from that same pool that you would need to dip into when you need to be creative. So it's definitely a challenge, and it's I think it's something a lot of creative entrepreneurs face. I have friends who are in very different industries as well, whether it's fashion, jewelry, other creative agencies or businesses, and we all face the same thing, wherein we've also not been trained, right?
No one told you that this is what's coming.
We've not been trained on hiring. We've not been trained on how to maybe look at a P&L. In fact, I think our industry has the least knowledge sharing also where that's concerned. And that's a pain point because you don't have anything to draw from. So like, I have literally designed my own MIS. Because I like to look at it in a certain way. I like everything to be in a certain format, color coded with specific fonts and spacing.
Aesthetically pleasing.
Yes.
Even if not numerically pleasing.
And like, I have spent hours and hours on that, with like my CA and like, other people on the team trying to perfect it. But you have to find your own way in this process because you don't know how to do it. And I did not know how to do it. Literally for the first 1 year, I was using my dad's CA and I didn't even know if we were making a profit or not. Like, I didn't know. So now it's changed and you have to learn all of these things. And a lot of learnings happen in terms of hiring and people. I've had some I'm a very emotional person. I've had some real heartburn when it comes to people, you know, quitting without notice, you know, I don't know, like just being unprofessional and stuff like that. And you learn the hard way because you really maybe trusted that person and you didn't think that it would happen. So you just learn all of these things along the way. And as creative people, like as a designer, graphic designer, getting into starting a business, there was no way for me to know, and there still is no way for me to know whether what I'm doing is right or
Right
not.
or wrong. And with all of this going on, how do you deepen your own, or at least refill your own creative pool in your creative will? Because it's kind of like assumed that, you know, ab tum creative ho,
Haan.
so ab karo. Right? And like you have to remain contemporary, you have to be with the time, then you just have to like, you can't keep drawing from the well without refilling it. What's your process there? Like, what do you do for that?
So firstly, it's not always me being creative. I have a great team. You know, you've worked with them. And just coming to it, it's kind of like, firstly, you have to build that muscle, that you have to literally, sometimes I do feel like I'm on the spot sometimes, that I have to be creative on demand.
On demand, yeah.
And
believe me, I know.
and sometimes I get really frustrated and I tell my team, man, it's like 11 p.m. and you've sent me something that I need to send, like we need to send the client at like in the morning. When do I have the time to reflect on it? You know, so it is challenging. It's very challenging. But when you know you can also get perspective from the team, etc. at times when you're not feeling like you're at your creative best, then you have that forum to look at. And apart from that, I've kind of built my own sort of network of people I reach out to for feedback and stuff like that. So let's say I'm working on a pack for you and one of the categories that we're working with, and I feel like, man, I'm not able to like evaluate this creatively, or I'm kind of stuck. I'll send it to 2-3 people who may who know firstly that, you know, Nush is sending this to me for honest feedback. I'm not going to take it badly if they hate it or whatever. And then it's good to get that perspective. So for me, I think the minute I start hearing different points of view and perspective, my brain is able to restart again. And sometimes it's as simple as, I'm not going to look at this for 2 days.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to look at it for 2 days. Even if there's a deadline, I might push it, I might request to push it, because I'm not able to look at it in the lens that I'm meant to. You know, and it happens sometimes. You need to be like, hey, I need to step away from this for like 24 hours to be able to come at it with a new lens, or I need the time to look at it with that lens. And about creative inspiration, for me, it's a few different things. I'm also someone who draws inspiration from not just my domain of work. So I find that a lot of people, when they think, okay, you're a graphic designer, you do brands, you only look at brands for inspiration. But I like looking at different things. I like looking at textile design. I like looking at interior design. I like looking at everything. And for me, that's just inspiring me as a person. It has nothing to do with this project that I'm working on. And immediately, like, I don't know, the body, the mind, everything works very differently. You can't explain it. There's a synchronicity that's happening where if you're in an inspired state about something else, you can bring that to what you're doing. And for me, a big part of that is being in nature, you know, just taking time off. Like for me, I'm one of those people who's always on, unfortunately, and contrary to popular belief, always on. And for me, the only way I can cut off is if I do something that literally shuts all those tabs. So if it's diving or skiing, spending time in nature, or doing like a really fun workout, for me, that's also inspiration. I can't explain it, but it's so important for me to have that blank space.
It just makes total sense to me, honestly, because I think creativity, according to me, is being able to connect disparate dots in fresh ways, right? Like when you look at four things and you bring them together, you make a fifth thing that
Yeah.
no one else
Yeah.
thought of.
Yeah.
Right? And like that's why we do referencing
Yeah.
work. We're not copying. These are dots that we are populating our head with and then trusting our creative head to
Correct.
create a new thing out of it. And hence, as counterintuitive as it sounds, the more actually more creative the mind, you give it the more disparate the dots that, you know, I'm now
Yeah.
looking at textile, I'm now just getting inspired by some music, I'm now
Yeah.
just staring into the void.
Yeah.
And the tough thing is you just have to trust that your brain will do its thing
Yeah.
eventually, and it doesn't comply for days at times. And by the way, sometimes that 11 p.m. deadline produces the best fucking work. Like
Yeah.
it's like because you're put on the spot.
Totally
and
agree with you on this one.
Something happens, right?
Totally agree with you on this one. Like the sometimes deadlines help, and also a very specific problem
Yeah.
helps. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So then you're like trying to look at it from different perspectives.
Yeah.
And with regards to these dots as well, and hoping they kind of fall into place, I think there's a dot that will come up like a year after you thought of it,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and there's no way to decode that.
Yeah.
And I read this book once. I don't read too much, but I went on this dive trip to Egypt once, and the diving was not Egypt, Burma. The diving was very boring. So I started reading this book because I was like, okay, between dives, I'm just going to read. It's called Big Magic, and it's by Elizabeth Gilbert, if I'm getting her name right. She writes about this concept of, you know, as a creative person, you start thinking this idea is mine. But actually it's come from somewhere.
Somewhere.
You don't even know where it's come from. And so it's just your role to do what you can best with the idea. And also realize that you are not defined by the success of that idea. And you just need to kind of be this vessel for some ideas to come and some ideas to go. And sometimes some ideas, they need to happen. So it'll find like different people in different places, and then whoever gets to it first, it'll manifest, you know. So it's kind of like, you know, when you look at movements of design or art and culture around the world,
Yeah.
that's how they work. Like, you know, we went through this phase of minimalism, for example, as a response to complete maximalism maybe at some point. But
Yeah.
I just believe that there's something that's also a little supernatural in the process of it. And then it's combined with a lot of like process as well.
Yeah.
But there's both things that exist.
No, 100%. I think we and our creations are a product of our times. There is no doubt about it, right? Like we are either conforming to the times, or once too many people start conforming, a rebel is born who says, I will not conform to the times.
Correct.
But it's always a reaction to the times.
Yeah.
It's not outside the context of the time. So being in sync with the vibe of the time, which is not something that you can put a finger on or put on an Excel sheet. It's just feeling where the world is headed and where my community is headed, and you know that
Yeah.
vibe. There is no, and hence I've always wondered, is this a very anxiety driving process? Because the process is so, you know, you can't code it. It's, you know,
Yeah.
do you every time on every project worry that pata nahi is bari will the magic happen or not? And a related question, because this is again for founders and clients who might want to work with agencies like you, what can the client do to ease that anxiety?
So I think what helps is that, you know, because the creative process is what it is, like it's helpful to trust the process. It's also helpful to trust the person. You've given this to them. So let's say, for example, you don't like what you see if you're working on something or you're not feeling that the idea is going in a particular direction, like just find a way to communicate it with as much clarity as possible, you know. I feel also just have a conversation about what you're expecting out of it with the person who's kind of, you feel like, okay, they've not hit the nail on the head, etc. Because it's not always going to hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
And that's actually how it works, because sometimes it won't hit the nail on the head, and that is an opportunity to, you know, redirect, restart. And if you just have a good relationship with the person you're doing this with, it'll happen. I've had experiences when people only don't have the clarity, so they keep coming to you with their confusion, and then that makes it even worse, because then it's like, okay, you know, we're trying like everything now, and then you also don't know, we also don't know. It happens, you know, it happens.
I can just sense, I can see so many examples are popping up in your head as you're saying all of this. So I must ask now, so when you and your folks, other creative directors, entrepreneurs get drunk, what do you guys bitch about? And tell me some real stories that you're like, isse gadha aadmi nahi dekha maine.
I mean, one of the things I think that really annoy some of us is this whole, you know, song and dance that people make you do before they bring you on board. You know, so in agency parlance, it's called pitching.
Yeah.
And I think it maybe applies to some ad agencies and stuff, because what's happening is you're pitching to get a 2-year retainer, a 3-year retainer, and in that retainer you're going to do so many different things. But sometimes people come to brand agencies like ours and they're like, pitch us the branding concept, the positioning, the identity and everything. And I'm like, then what will I do? Then what will I do afterwards? They're like, no, you don't have to do it completely. You just have to give us an idea. I'm like, with a mood board? They're like, no, you have to show us something you've made. And I'm like, yes, but the whole process that we follow, which is what I was telling you about, understanding stakeholder, consumer, culture, all of this is an input into what I might do. Without that, how will I do it? They're like, oh, then do all that. I'm like, for free. And then they're like, okay, you know what? We've spoken to the team. We have a budget. And the budget will be like, I don't know, 3-4 lakhs or something like that. I'm like, but you are asking me to give you the seed of what I would do without giving me the time. Okay, let's say you want to pay me a fee for it, but the time? So it's very frustrating. And I think that some of us have taken a stance that we don't pitch.
Yeah.
I've had founders lie that I'm pitching to them. And I've heard from other agencies that, oh, aren't you pitching to this particular brand? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't pitch. I've been telling you this. But some people, to get other agencies to pitch, they say, but even Thought of a Design is pitching.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that's guts. How can you do that? It really upsets me, because then it becomes about ethics. I'm not pitching and you're saying I'm pitching.
But imagine the Auqaat, Nush, like people are going and saying, even Thought of a Design is pitching. Who are you? Why won't you?
I mean, it's quite terrible, you know.
But you're not giving me the real cost, Nush. Like, what do you guys like really bitch about?
I mean, it's so many different things. It's just about, like, you know, people not understanding, you know, how timelines work, people not understanding how, I mean, one other thing is just, you know, sort of constantly changing the brief also, you know. It's a real problem. Like, you can't just keep changing it and expect that, okay, now we'll go back 3 months and redo everything, and it's just going to be like, there's an effort that's been, like, you know, that's happened so far. And honestly, another thing that we continually talk about is also nothing to do with clients, but just to do with team building as well. Because now with hiring, it's become very challenging. Some people sign offer letters, don't show up, or use your offer letter to shop it around with other agencies, and we're all talking, so we kind of know what's happening. But I think the ecosystem is not that developed, so there's a lot of this happening, and it's very frustrating in that sense.
On this pitching
Yeah.
piece, then according to you, from your perspective,
Yeah.
what's the right methodology for a founder to decide who to work with?
Yeah.
Is it just see our past work, meet us and decide, or is there something else that one can look at?
See, firstly, I think specific to India, people need to also understand different design studios and agencies have different approaches.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not so easy as, oh, I'll do it from this or this person. Look at the past work to understand the type of work that agency has done. Okay, because make an informed decision as to who you want to chat with.
I'm gonna just ask you, when you say type,
Yeah.
you mean for example, different authors have a certain
Yes.
style of writing. You're
Yes.
saying the personality of the studio reflects in a certain kind of work, because there are studios, including you, I
Yeah.
would say, who've done quite a wide
Yeah.
palette of work, right? So,
Yeah.
so what do you mean by type of work?
I mean, can you look at 2-3 projects that studio has done and feel like, hey, I like this, not just because you read about them somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's not so interchangeable. And also sometimes, some studios are better at stuff which is, let's say, more in the B2B space. Or maybe they're better with super luxury stuff. And you get a sense by looking at their portfolio. So one is understand whether the sensibility match hai ke nahi.
Yeah.
Secondly, when you have this conversation with a design studio, see if you at least resonate with their process, because everyone will have a process. If you try to superimpose your process on them, how would that work? Or superimpose another, agency's process on it, how would it work? Like a lot of times people come to me, and I know this, I'm known for this, that we take time. Now, you want me to do what I took 8 months to do for someone else in 1 month. And we're having multiple conversations about this. How is that? Just it's fine, just walk away from it. It can't happen.
Yeah, I think the problem, because I also sympathize with the other
Yeah.
side. It's not that, not necessarily 9 out of 10 people are good people. It's just that there is no training or knowledge about creative process. The fact that it's a process, it's itself
Yeah.
a revelation
Yeah.
to most of us, right? And then which is why I'm having this conversation, that if we can give a framework to folks who would be approaching a brand design stage,
Yeah.
that there is a certain vibe, sensibility, area of expertise that different studios have, and the job is actually to gauge
Yes.
that.
First.
Which is a feeling job. It's not a
Yeah.
hard logic job. It is a feeling job.
Yes.
And then
I think have a conversation. Okay, firstly get a sense of, maybe their timelines and budgets. That's a great way to start. And
Yeah.
another thing is, people will never tell you their budget.
Yeah.
They will tell you that it's not in their budget. Once they hear the budget. So I'm like, so then you knew the whole time what your budget was. So it's rather, it's like, we've really thought about it, it's not in the budget. I'm like, but I asked you few times, do you have a budget?
I'll tell you the other side on this one also.
Yeah.
You don't know whether the number that you have is laughably small or insanely high or somewhere in the middle. You don't know. So
Correct.
actually each side is playing a guessing game. You're asking, तुम बता दो कितना है? And this person is thinking, पता नहीं मैं बहुत कम बोल रहा हूँ या बहुत ज़्यादा बोल रहा हूँ या क्या है, तो ज़रा सुन लेते हैं पहले. So there is lack of trust actually. And trusting in the creative space is tougher for someone who doesn't come from that space.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. So one way we've started kind of addressing it is, when we mail people the first time, we let them know that, look, this is our minimum billing value.
Budget, yeah, I think that helps.
And we're happy to have the conversation if this at least works for you for a starting point, and we'll have to figure out what that budget is based on your scope of work.
Yeah.
Because also the spec is so important. Every project is so different.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of time we're also investing in figuring out what that spec is for that particular project. So it's good to at least know, okay, this is the minimum billing that this, that this studio has. But coming back to the conversation with the studio, I think it's really important to have a chat and to see whether there is like some chemistry, and get the right people on the call and come a little bit prepared with some questions or, if you want to share what your idea is with the business, etc., to have a conversation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that conversation can be very telling. I mean, I'll go back to our example, Shashank, like it was just a conversation.
Yeah.
I don't think it was anything else at that point in time, after which we then did the spec work and said, okay, this is what the scope of work is, etc. So that conversation becomes important to kind of assess things.
Yeah.
And in general, like ask the person, the studio that you're going to be working with, whoever that might be, like how would they like feedback to be communicated? What is the process? Like for example, I've dealt with some brands where we started working with them and there's one person involved. The second meeting, one more person joins. The third meeting, 2 more people join. By the time you're in month 4, those 3 have left, 5 new people have come in, the context has switched so much. It can be very tricky then as to who's owning the project. And I've had this happen multiple times where specifically if a team is new and they're growing, it's bound to happen. So also figure out at the beginning, like, who's going to own this entire conversation, and then those 2 people really need to, on our end and on their end, need to have an understanding.
I can share my, I was thinking back as you were speaking to our time, and thankfully after that I've never had to, do another process of finding another agency. We've only exclusively worked with TOD. I think for me intuitively at that time, past work which I could consume on my own time, and hence I told you to shut the laptop because I've seen the past work, is the skill check actually. Is there finesse in the work? Is it looking a certain way? And the skill check is actually the necessary but not sufficient condition. It's a necessary condition. The sufficient condition is the vibe check, which was in person. Because I was clear that this is going to be co-creation and I want, both of us to be fully involved in the process. Would I love working with these folks or not, right? The entry level condition was high skill, and you can tell when people don't put out work under a certain quality level because they wouldn't have their name on it, right? So that you can tell, and I think and after that for me it's about the vibe. Tell me one more thing though. As I reflect on all the projects that we've done, we've usually referenced foreign brands, international brands, US, European, Australian brands. It seems like appreciation for beautiful, high quality, original work is higher outside the country. Is it because the Indian consumer doesn't care for it that much, or is it because the founder doesn't care for it that much, or are these linked? Where does that come from? First of all, do you agree?
I think this is rapidly changing. Okay. I feel like firstly the reason a lot of international references are used is because they're documented much better.
Okay.
And so they're available to be referenced on platforms like Pinterest and stuff like that.
If honestly, when someone asks me which brands in India inspire you, I find it very, very tough to come up with good answers. It sounds
That's why I think it's changing now. It's changing, right? So obviously, those markets are far more evolved. Therefore, there are a lot of things that they have done before us, which is why it becomes a great benchmark. You know what I mean? But I find that maybe not with your brand, but with other brands, for example, I do look at like local references also. And I think that my problem with this referencing situation is that when you reference, you need to also not just copy it as is.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
course,
But that happens a lot.
There's a reason there's a different word for it. It's called referencing.
Yeah, but it happens a lot, and I feel like it's changing rapidly now in India, because we're also sort of looking at a lot of like local context and stuff like that to bring into design. But with stuff like packaging, with stuff, especially in CPG and FMCG, the market in the West is so much more evolved, right? So there is so many references you can look at. And I think it's because the Indian context was not as exposed earlier. Now we have the internet, we have Instagram, you're looking at everything on the same platform, whether it's a brand in the US or Europe or Australia or India, it's all on the same platform. You have access to this. So obviously, brands like The Whole Truth and other brands that are coming up need to live up to that benchmark.
Yeah.
And even break that benchmark. And I hope that we're doing some of that. But it's good to kind of look at what's going on, take from it, and then see what works within our context as well. With The Whole Truth specifically, we were always looking to build a brand that's relevant no matter where you take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it works no matter what context it's in.
Yeah.
But with some brands, they may need to have a little bit more local flavor, more local
I think
context.
local flavor, of course. Like,
Yeah.
I think India will 100% evolve into a very developed
Yeah.
CPG, FMCG
Yeah.
market, and 100% like everything else, it'll have a lot of local flavor and context, and rightly so.
Yeah.
We have so much beauty that needs to come out of each part of this country.
Yeah.
Like you travel 200 kilometers, there's a new beautiful thing that you can bring out
Yeah.
in a brand. I'm talking about the beauty, not whether it's local or not, right? Like
Yeah.
whenever we try and reference great copy brands,
Correct.
we look outside.
Yeah.
Whenever we try and reference great, visual design,
Yeah.
attention to detail brands, we look. Actually, tell me some brands in India that inspire you.
So one of them has continued to be Forest Essentials.
Yeah, amazing.
I think it is a phenomenal brand. One of my friends, Shruti, had worked on it as part of the team that built that brand. And I feel it's a great reference point for two reasons. One is it created a signature product,
Yeah,
and that product experience cannot be copied.
yeah.
The fragrances are signature, and so the product itself is magical. And it has a signature of being Indian in it. And two is they built this entire style which is borrowed from, Pichwai paintings and just botanicals and things like that, and brought it onto the packaging and now the stores, etc. And I feel that that's why a company like, if I'm not mistaken, Estee Lauder, they're the ones that invested in it, or took it over, has that faith that they can take this from India to the world. That being said, though, it's a very Indian brand.
Very, yeah.
So that's definitely one. Another one that I'm really loving is Manam Chocolates.
Yeah,
I
amazing.
love what they have done.
Amazing work.
Another friend of mine, Rahul, had worked on it, and this girl who was in college with me, Namrata, created all the illustrations of all the, the farmers on the cacao farms, etc., and the people who work in the factory. And I think that brand is beautiful as well. In a different space, more global, I think Daily Objects is doing a great job.
Very nice. Yeah.
It's not Indian and rooted in Indianness. It's taken a very contemporary
But
approach.
it's come out of India,
I really like their product. I think what they've done correctly is also invested in product design and making the product distinct. And then I love the way they look at designing their packaging and designing their communication. It's so interesting.
That reminds me of Nui.
Yes, yes.
That you recommended. I have it on my desk.
Yes,
Beautifully
yes.
designed.
So it's
Yeah.
very beautifully designed. But with all of these examples, it's very much a marriage between
Product and design. Yeah.
and brand,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, and I find even in F&B and stuff like that in India, I'm very inspired by Riaz Amlani
Yeah.
and what he's done with social.
Yeah.
And he worked with my late friend Hanif Qureshi on building out social. And I think just the ethos of that brand and the way they've, I was with him the other night and he said there's now 52 socials
Wow.
in the country.
Wow.
It's really inspiring to see that because every product, every outlet is so different
Yeah.
from the other,
And yet it's a social.
and yet it's a social.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Because, I mean, you need to be a little mad, and Riaz is that person, to do that, So this is why I say I feel it's changing a bit because I see inspiration around me in this way and I kind of try to draw from that. And like it kind of drives me also to do better work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Actually, now that you bring up social, that this is true that in the last 10 years I felt it again and again that the F&B industry in India,
Yeah.
the cafe space, the
Yeah.
restaurant space, I actually find it far more interesting
Yeah.
than Europe, for example. Like Europe,
Yes.
it's all nice, old, beautiful, but it's just the same. Like I can't tell sitting at one place or the other. It'll have nice cutesy touches, but like the amount of character being poured into the
Yeah.
F&B space in India, I look forward to the next cafe that's opening up and it'll be completely differently done and like that's actually true.
It's super fun.
Yeah.
And since
that's
we're talking about spaces, I'm a big fan of the brand Postcard Hotel also. I
yes.
think they have built something phenomenal,
sure, yes.
and
And there too, the product, like the service, the locations,
Yeah.
it's all intertwined.
Yeah,
And I think that's a big one that actually great brand design can only be inspired by a great underlying product. It
Yes.
cannot live in isolation. And if it does in some cases, it'll be found out in 2-3 years. It won't,
Yeah, then
it
it's
won't
just-
last.
a visual case study.
Yeah.
But like that, these are the kind of brands that I feel are doing awesome stuff in the country, and sometimes even smaller, smaller brands. And I think fashion is a great place to look at. Like I'm wearing a dress from Jodi Life, and they do great stuff with Indian craft
That's
and bringing
true.
it into contemporary styles.
That's true.
And the way they do all of their photo shoots and marketing, it borrows from a very contemporary finish, but it has a very different, locally borrowed flavor as well.
Yeah.
So I think what's happening in fashion is also very, very exciting.
It seems like, now that we're taking these examples, that fashion, jewelry, F&B,
Yeah.
industries where it's obvious that the consumer comes for design. People invest in, people pour their heart in, take time and design something. It seems that it's not that obvious to CPG entrepreneurs that
That you
there-
can do that.
that is a very big one also because honestly this business has many other variables, all the 6 P's of pack, price, promotion, place,
Yeah.
proposition, everything.
Yeah.
And there are examples. Honestly, we are talking, like one of the things I was reflecting as you were saying is like we are talking all premium end
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's not as if beauty only resides here. Like Fevicol is a beautiful brand.
Yes.
Parle-G is a beautiful brand.
Yes.
And they have been built, like many brands have been built just on pack and price or
Yeah.
pack and distribution.
Yeah.
So you can actually cherry pick 2 P's out of the 6 P's and still build a large business, and the beauty in many of these cases actually just comes from the consistency.
Correct.
Right? Like I'm sure Fevicol on day 1 wasn't beautiful, but what they've done over and over, or the Amul girl and the Amul advertising, I'm sure like at the start they didn't even have a very deep brand definition but just picked one lane and just went at it for like 50 years.
Consistency.
Yeah, and then consistency is also beauty, right? Because that means there is some anchor which is holding you in place, and then that becomes why it's beautiful.
I think the relationship between being consistent and being dynamic, both have to come together. Like there has to be something that anchors you, but something that allows for that differentiation to happen. Like for example, in our case with The Whole Truth, like with every category, we try to differentiate so that our portfolio looks distinct and differentiated, and we're also speaking to that category's truth. Right? So similarly in a different brand, for example, like with social, let's take it, like there is a consistent approach, but the outcome is dynamic, and therefore allows them to collaborate with so many different interior designers, architects. They were showing me a space they have in Bilandur in Bangalore, where they have this dome in this this huge gated facility, and it's a glass dome with this biophilia inside, and they've created a social in there. So I thought that was really phenomenal.
One of the past guests on the podcast was Karthik, who's amongst many other things, he's a personal brand consultant.
Okay. Yeah.
And he gave me this very good analogy that personal brands is like, imagine you in your house, and your house has 100 windows.
Yeah.
You don't want to open up all the 100 windows, because then that's just living naked in public, and that's not what you want. But you open up the living room window, let people see you in your living room. It's a different room, but it's your room. You can tell it's this guy.
Yeah.
Then you open up, one bedroom window in the morning, let them in a little bit, let them see. And once they see the entire house through, 10 out of the 100 windows, the 90 are closed. Like when you're with your family, that window is closed.
Correct.
You're never going to show it. But if I just peek into your house through different windows, it'll be Nush's house.
Yeah.
But it'll be like different facets of it that come through, and they'll be consistent because it is it is your house.
Yeah.
Right. So awesome. Okay. So Nush, now that I am done with questions, there's this one segment that we end the podcast with, where the team selects 2 random, very out there sort of ads. I have not seen them. You've not seen them. We both get to see them for the first time now.
Okay.
And then we have to decode what the brief was.
Okay.
Yeah?
Cool.
All right?
Yeah.
Are we good?
Fun. Yeah.
All right, let's go. This I've seen. Have you seen this ad?
नया सेंटर शॉक च्युइंग गम हिला के रखते हैं.
What was the brief, Nush?
I'm guessing the brief was, how do we get people to experience the flavor, and also how do we really like position the brand as something that's really like out there, crazy, the brand name being, Center Shock, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I agree. I think the brief was shock.
Yeah.
Shock and awe. And I love these categories.
Yeah.
Which are, there is no pressure of meaning, purpose, this, that. It is, just need to be top of mind.
Yeah.
Just, it should be so memorable that you can't just like get it out of your head and then just go crazy, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised, like, and it would be a brilliant brief if the client had the clarity to just write shock. Like,
That's a good brief.
just land,
Yeah.
like, And I also love how so much of this ad is the music, right?
Absolutely.
Like
Yes.
and the way it's been set to the music, and how the end doodling, that whatever yodeling comes, it's amazing.
The music is such
Yeah.
an integral part of it, and also the aesthetic of the ad,
Yeah.
and where it's shot, and the casting.
Casting is so spot on,
and
yeah.
the barbers acting like
Yes.
I mean, just phenomenal all around, and it's one of those ads that I actually remember, you know. And I think
Yeah.
this was also from a time when there weren't that many ads all the time,
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
remember these few pieces of communication.
And it's from a time of TV where, you know, we've discussed this with past guests also. There was this whole era of ads where 30-40 seconds in, you didn't even know what the product was.
Yeah.
You could only do it when it's not appointment viewing. It is, you know, you have to watch it.
Yeah.
You can't like skip or,
Correct.
you know, move on. So
Correct.
the writer was assuming tum dekhoge.
Yeah.
And then in the 10-20 seconds, if I build enough intrigue, you will stay till the end. I will
Yeah.
reveal the product. And YouTube came and shifted that completely. That first 5 seconds
Yeah.
में branding आना चाहिए, नहीं तो
Correct.
लोग skip कर देंगे, etc. But I really think this kind of storytelling is going to make a big comeback,
I love it.
or should at least.
Yeah, it should.
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And there's so much, also there's so much craft
Craft, yeah.
that's
yeah.
gone into it,
Yeah.
right? It's not
Yeah.
just a glossy ad that, you know, follows a format and then it kind of hits some data points or whatever. There's just so much craft, so much soul. And I think that's also what makes good
Yeah,
advertising
yeah,
at the end of the day, yeah?
Yeah, and again, this was a time when I think advertisers used to treat their film as a film,
Yes.
right? So it was supposed to be joyous, it was supposed to leave you feeling happy,
Yeah.
not just, you know, be a carrier of a brand message,
Yeah.
effectively.
I love that it's just that small little product.
Yeah.
And it's this.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just amazing. Yeah.
Very nice. Let's see another one,
Okay.
which is called gas commercial.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, it's 1.5 minutes.
कुरियर कर दिया था सर ये शुक्रवार को 11:30 बजे सुबह कर दिया था
This I
हाँ
have.
जी क्या नहीं मिला आपको मिल जाएगा सर मिल जाएगा ना सर क्यों परेशान हो रहे हैं आप हाँ जी सर मैंने कुरियर कर दिया है
ईशा
सर कभी कभी चीजें मतलब आप समझ नहीं रहे मेरी बात को आपको क्यों ऐसा लग रहा है कि मैंने कुरियर नहीं किया है सर आप
साफ करो जल्दी
सर मैं सिंपल काम है यार संडे है
सब काम मुझे
सर संडे को मैं कहाँ जाऊंगा आप बताइए मुझे सर संडे को कौन सा कुरियर वाला खुला रहता है सर आप बताइए मुझे सर मैं अपने आप को आपकी जगह रखकर देख रहा हूँ लेकिन सर
ये डस्टबिन में से सारा
आप मेरी बात को समझने की कोशिश तो कीजिए सर सर एक दिन का सवाल है आप सर आज संडे है कल संडे मैं सर आप अजीब तरीके से बात कर रहे हैं सर
ईशा तुमने बाहर के कपड़े निकाल दिए जाओ जाओ जल्दी निकालो
जो हाँ। सर मैं कह रहा हूँ कल मंडे है आ जाएगा सर कल सुबह सर आप हमारे थोड़े स्टाफ हैं सर
Okay.
Wow.
The brief though seems. You say. What do you think was the brief?
I don't think the brief might have alluded to what they've done. The
Yeah.
brief might have been, how do you get people excited about this in a very different way? Maybe just that, and hopefully maybe someone put in there that, you know, it doesn't have to be cricket related.
Cricket related. Usually, in my experience, these left field ideas. See, as a marketer, I can imagine the brief being, or at least the discussion being that there's a lot of tension, you know, in a India-Pakistan match. So, and you know, a point of tension is a good point of storytelling. So,
You think that would have been in the brief though? I don't know about that. Like, I feel like maybe they would have just been like, how do we
promote
get
this?
people excited about it? And then that's when the creative interpretation also comes in,
Quite
saying,
possible.
hey,
Yeah.
you know what? Let's get people to not even think of. It's kind of like the first one also, where you don't know
But
what
the
it is.
difference is the first one had the product in the center of the idea.
Yeah.
Here, the product is like, as a marketer, I can find many reasons why this is not a great ad. Like, if the match was a product, then end the product not coming.
Yeah.
Is like a gray zone. Of course, it's very different because the match is a one-time event, and it's akin to movie marketing, where all of movie marketing happens in week one.
Yeah.
Right. So all billboards, everything, every anything that you want to tease or do anything, you have to do it in week one, and then it's
Correct.
It's done. So ये तो एक point in time है. So I think I was saying that usually this thing of maybe it doesn't even need to be about cricket, that I think would have come from creative, because this looks
Yeah.
like a very किसी creative को कुछ
Correct.
चमका, उसने pitch किया डरते डरते कि and client बन गया.
Yeah. But even this whole idea of tension, right? I don't know whether it was part of the brief
that-
or not,
that-
because
that is-
that could have been the insight
That
that,
is, yeah.
hey, there's a lot of tension, so
Yeah.
why don't we use that as a
As a
starting point
starting
to come up with a story that has nothing to do with this? Get people in and then be like, this match.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it's also kind of, I mean, cricket is universally loved in this country, but say you didn't give a shit about it, you're like glued to it, being like, what's going on?
हो क्या रहा है?
Yeah.
Yeah, 90-second ad, and anywhere in the middle you leave it. You
Yeah.
have no clue.
Yeah.
Like with the Center Shock one,
They at least had it.
halfway in you know Center Shock की ad
Yes,
है.
yes. And there's a chewing and all of that happens. Yeah.
ये तो you leave it 2 seconds before, and you don't know.
Yeah.
So this can तो only happen in the, and of course the storytelling is great. So I was really intrigued कि ये कहाँ जा रहा है. क्या
I
हो
had
रहा
no
है.
idea.
Yeah.
And even it was called what? Gas something.
Gas commercial.
Yeah, gas commercial. So I had no idea what it was.
The fact that someone wrote the brief itself is quite
Yeah.
interesting to me. कि एक match को
And full points for whoever said, let's do it. You know what I mean? Because it's not even in a sporting setting. It doesn't look like these people are like sitting around ready to watch something. It looks completely.
I am in two minds on whether I love it.
Okay, I like
I
it.
think execution is insane.
Huh.
Strategically, I find that there is a limit to this tactic of diversion. And I think they maybe
But
I'm just reacting in our times
In this
today.
case, it's one match, no? How much are you gonna like you don't need to like replicate it or anything like that. So
I'm just saying this thing of the 90-second assumption is I
Yes.
think just a deal breaker for
Okay.
me. Ki,
in today's day for sure. And I'm sure they had some cut downs.
Yeah.
We are
this can
watching
easily
the
be cut
longer.
down. This
We're
can
watching
easily
a
be cut
longer
down.
version.
Yeah. Awesome.
Awesome.
That's it then.
Okay. Great.
I hope you had fun. I had
Yes.
super duper fun. This
Thank
was-
you. Thank you for having me. I know I complained a lot for being made to record a podcast.
You are a very special guest, both because of how long back we go, of how much of the Whole Truth brand has been built by you and your team at TOD, and because we do this podcast precisely because we believe that marketing is misunderstood. It is equal parts art and science, and it's especially important to have the art conversation.
Yeah.
Because companies usually are run by MBAs and people who come from the business world, and we don't get enough conversation and training in understanding, quantifying, putting money behind, having faith in the art of it. And I hope that today's conversation gave some language to that very important half of marketing. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Awesome. Chalo.
Thank you, everyone.
Is a wrap. And cut.